Greetings. I have a little different setup here. I'm trying out a new camera, and I'm trying out some new lighting, so we'll see how this goes. I'm just going to be showing you cards today, but I'm going to be doing one of my favorite tarot spreads. If you've taken classes with me, or if you've had a reading from me, you're probably familiar with this. I believe I might have mentioned this before here on the channel, but I don't really talk a lot about it because it has a varied amount of interest usually. But I'm first of all using the Deviant Moon Tarot today, which I really love to use this time of the year. It's a really good deck. It's a fun deck. I use it this time of the year for reading shadow, but it's also, I just find it really fun. I love the images and it's fun, you know. It's fun. Anyway, this is my 9-card spread. It's not a spread. I'm not even going to call it a 9-card spread because there's actually no spread to it. There's no meanings to it or anything. First, in covering in this video, I want to say that I'm going to be answering basically 3 questions about this spread. Number 1 would be why I even use it. Why do I like this so much? Why do I use it? I'm also going to say when do I use it? And then finally, I'm going to answer for you how I use it. Your opinion may vary. I'd love to hear comments about that. But hear me out first, because I think it's so much, it's undervalued, I think, by a lot of tarot readers. First I want to answer why I would use it, why I like it. I like it because so often when I'm reading for others or even for myself, I'm curious to see what the energies are saying for me at this time, but I really don't have specific questions that I want to ask. And I see that among a lot of people I read for, they just have general questions. They don't have anything specific that they want to know the answers to. But what I like about this spread is it will tell you the questions that you are seeking. So it's really good for people who are unsure or maybe nervous. I think sometimes when I have a querent that I'm going to read for, they're a little shy or a little hesitant to actually tell me what they really want to know about, even though they might know what they want to know about. And it isn't until after we get into the reading a little bit that they finally say, then they have the questions. And if we're too specific with a layout, then there are defined positions, you know, defined, this is the past, this is the future, answering specific questions that way, then we're kind of stuck in that format. And then if questions come up later, especially if it's late in the reading, we might not have time to address those things. So this spread is really good. I don't have specific questions, but I can get specific answers to questions I didn't even know I had, if that makes sense. Okay. And it's the beauty of using several different spreads at the same time. And I will show you that when I get into how I use it. But right now, that's a good reason for why I use it. When do I use it? As I said, anytime I want a thorough reading, to answer specific, but maybe not having specific questions. Most of the readings that I sell, I like to keep them about an hour long. They go as long as they need to be. I don't like to shortchange people. People pay good money for a reading. So I like to give them a really thorough reading. And this is a really good, it gives me a lot of information that we can talk at length for at least an hour if we want to about things going on in the spread. We're very limited, and some of the other spreads that we use, we're very limited. We only have so many cards we're showing, or we're asking specific things, and without bringing in more cards, it's difficult to bring in more information. So this is really good to use then. Okay. Also, this time of the year, I like it this time of the year particularly because if you saw one of my videos one of my last videos I put up, I talked about this time of the year being an in-between time of the year, because we're really not in the winter, and we're busy doing preparations for spring and summer coming up, spring coming up, and we're still in the winter, we're still in the dark part of the year, but we can see glimmers of hope for the light. We're all preparing things with gardens. I got my chicks. I've been doing stuff with my chicks, and we're planning. We're walking the yard, planning for projects that we want to have for this summer and things like that. So we're all in like an in-between time. And that's another reason I like to have this deck, use this Deviant Moon or a deck like it. It's a deck that reads well in shadow, but it also reads in light as well. It just gives you a little bit of a little twist on the shadow side. And it doesn't, I don't read reversals in here. I'm not sure if it offers reversals. I should look in the book and see if it has reversed meanings. I'm working on a bag for this deck. It's been slow going, but I really needed this box has had it. Yes, they do offer both upright and reverse meanings, but in a deck like this, I tend to consider what could be the maybe not the one offered in the book. I'm not always a fan of the meanings given in a book, but I like to read both shadow and light into this kind of a deck. Where yes, it's dark, it could be shadow, but also there's light coming and offers light. And if you can see with this deck, every one of them offers some kind of light. We see, and I'll just point out here the devil. You might be able to see. We have a slither of moon up in the corner. But he's of course a dark figure, but we see the glowing, probably from the flames or whatever. We see the glowing here. We see shadows. The moon is casting a shadow. I don't think you can see that, pick that up on the camera, but we do see the shadow of him on the ground below. We see that. We see glimmers of light all around. Here we have a shadow cast here as well of him standing here. We can see on the ground his shadow. So we see sources of light very much so in the Page of Swords as he's looking. We see the light coming from his eye as he's examining the blade of the sword. So we see the light in this dark. It's not all darkness. Nothing is all dark. Nothing is all light. So this is a real good reading for that kind of a... This is a good night. This 9-card spread is really good to use to get that kind of information, where we want to see the balance and how it balances out between the darkness and the light. Okay, and then finally, the most important part of the purpose of this video is how do I use this spread? How do I use it? Okay. Well, first of all, I want to say I have just basically dealt out 9 cards at random. In no particular order. I always tend to go top to bottom and left to right. That's just because I'm right-handed. Any way you want. You can put them in any way you want. But I wouldn't, and it doesn't matter if this card is here or this card. It doesn't matter really. But I like to establish the order before I put them down, because even though we don't have past, present, future, or cause and effect or anything like that, we still, the way they lie is the way they're going to remain. We're going to read them in the position that they land in, if that makes sense. Okay, so I wouldn't just randomly find a place for it. I would put them in order, top to bottom, left to right, or top to bottom to top, or however is comfortable for you. Just lay them out in a sequential order of some kind. And then we just look at them. And this is another beauty of this spread, is that I love, this is a kind of a spread that I like to study over at least a course of several hours, maybe a day, maybe a couple of days. I might leave this kind of a reading out on a table where I can come back and revisit it. But I use this a lot, like I said, when I have people hiring me for readings, because especially for people that live at a distance and I'm not going to be able to see them in person, I like to get a lay of the land, a little bit of an insight before I meet with the person to relay the reading, to give the reading actually like on a Zoom call, where we can discuss it. But I like to have a little bit of a foundation for the reading by studying the cards a little bit first, giving some thought to where everything is, etc. So this is really good for that kind of a thing. Okay, but so first thing I do is I look, and this is pretty much true of most spreads. I look at, are we talking here major arcana or minor arcana? That's number one. Is there a balance, or is it heavily weighted in one way or the other? I think I did a video not too long ago where I had I laid out a reading for myself, and it was very heavily weighted in major arcana cards. And so why do we care? Major arcana are the big things. They're the big things in life, the big happening, major things that you're going to notice probably. Minor arcana things are the little, you might notice them, you might not. You know, the energies are there. They're sort of fleeting. They're just day-to-day kind of things. You can have a bad day today and a good day tomorrow, that kind of thing. Or major arcana seems to go in a period of time. This period of time, whatever length it is, you have these kind of energies over a matter of more than days. Or more than a day. It'll be with you a little more than a day. Okay, that's one thing. And when I look at mine, I see I have 3 majors. I have the Devil, and I have the World and Strength here in the second line. Okay, 3 major arcana cards, which means I have 6 minor. 6 minor. Okay, so that's pretty good balance in this, in a 9-card spread. A third of them would be major and 2/3 minor. That's a pretty good balance. So I got a good balance there. This is going to be a good balance. Well, that means is not a good balance in my life, but a good balance in the reading. It's giving me information for both day-to-day stuff and stuff, you know, for this time period, whatever it be. Okay. Now I obviously look at, of course, that would include neurology. I might want to look at to see if I have, because here I see one thing that struck me right away. I have 3, in the minor arcana, I have 3 6s. I have the 6 of Pentacles, I have the 6 of Wands, and I have the 6 of Cups, which is kind of interesting. They're all 6s. And then also interesting to me, I have the Page of Cups and the Page of Swords. Kind of interesting. And then, of course, I have the Queen of Swords here. So we're not really so spread out. There seems to be some kind of a focus in that kind of an energy. There might be a dynamic between these pages. There might be a dynamic between all of the face cards. There might be the people cards here. There might be a dynamic between these 6s. That's something to look at if you want to look at numerology. We could maybe look at that. Okay. Then, of course, I want to look at the suits. And interestingly, I have everything represented. I have Cups here in the Page and the 6 of Cups. Okay. I have the Swords, which I have the Queen of Swords here and the Page of Swords here. That's interesting. They're both face cards. Okay. And I have Pentacles. I have the 6 of Pentacles, like we've already said. In the Pentacles, they're all 6s. Pentacles, Pentacles, Wands, and Cups in 6s. Okay, so I have Cups, Swords, Pentacles, and Wands. Okay, so that's pretty balanced. I have and again, so you might have seen some of my past readings not too long ago. I had one reading where it was just about all Cups. I mean, the whole thing was almost Cups. But this is a real good, that was a real emotional time perhaps, a very intuitive time perhaps. We'll have to go back and revisit that to see. But I want to say this is a good, so we're getting a good general overall picture. Another good thing to see in these 9-card spreads because it's going to give me a lot of information. Okay. Now, I'm going to look and see what the positions, first of all, let's go back a little bit. I want to first of all visit the major arcana and say, okay, where are these major arcana located? Now remember, I didn't give anything an assigned position, but we can see very obviously the Devil card is at the top. He's top and center, front and center, they want to say. Okay, at the very, very top. Okay, most of the other cards lie beneath. And interesting that is because the Devil card, we talk about as obsession, some kind of an obsession, or, a lot of times this has to do with addiction or something, but it's obsessing over something. Obsession. And it's like, this is like turmoil. It might be turmoil, this kind of stuff, all these conflicts might be going over, causing some kind of feeling of, maybe it's something that's maybe taken away from that balance or something. This is not, by the way, I want to say I'm not going to talk at an actual reading. I'm trying to stay very general here because I think you can learn. Where I do get very specific sometimes when I read, explain these readings, and it usually ends up to be about me or somebody. Particularly, I want to show you different ways to read it, how you have to approach it with an open mind. Just generally thinking of the devil as that kind of a card and seeing these things lie beneath it, what that might imply. But I'm not going to make a decision until I see what it is that's lying beneath. Okay, so that might be something that comes up in a while during this reading. So I might want to note that and see where we're going to go with that. Another thing that I see in the positions of the cards, where I have also the devil is lying between the Page of Cups and the Queen of Swords. Okay, that's kind of interesting to me because I'm looking at the Page of Cups representing imagination, some kind of an imaginative, maybe an imaginative person, somebody who's really like wanting to, you know, begin some kind of adventure, some kind of creative something. We have it's the airy side of cups. It's the airy side. So starting to go off into some emotional, you know, maybe in a relationship or something like that. Or looking into intuition, something like that. And here we have on the other side of it, the Queen of Swords. And the Queen of Swords is anxiety. In this deck, of course, we know the Queen of Swords is the master of her mind. She's very mindful. As she's acute, she thinks a lot. She's absorbed in her thoughts, but maybe thinking too much is burdening her. We see the blood on this sword, and she's kind of sad. The blood dripping down here onto the ground. We see that there might be some kind of a burden. She might feel alone. She might feel so. Well, he's very anxious to have maybe a relationship. She's very much alone. And this, what's in between it is this devil card. This devil card. Okay. So, we might see this devil card. In other words, we might see the devil card as some kind of an obsession, you know, obsessing about what is going on between why I want so much to have a relationship. Why is it not happening? Why do I feel alone? Okay, it could be that kind of a question. That's an example. That's just an example. We want to read everything first before we get to there. Okay. The second thing I want to look at, and that strikes me about the major arcana cards, here I have the Strength card dead set in the center of my 9 cards. At the very center is a Strength card, and it usually represents the strength within us, right? The strength inside. It's within it's the strength inside us, our inner strength that usually is overpowering what needs to be controlled, to controlling that. It is within us, also within this reading, excuse me, which I think is very interesting. In this deck, we know that this card is not just so inner strength. In this, no, we know that the shadowy side of this strength card is what he is seeking to control may ultimately overcome him. And he is very clear on this card because we can see, look, just at the size of his teeth alone. Look at his teeth. They look pretty fierce, but not compared to the teeth on the monster. If that monster really wanted to, he could bite his head off very easily. So he's seeking to control something that is not always controllable. And that, of course, again, relating to this obsessive devil card in the top, which I find that very, very interesting. But anyway, the Strength card is sandwiched between, it's not only lying underneath the devil card, but it's lying flanked by the World card and the 6 of Pentacle card, which is kind of interesting because I can say that right away. These 2 cards have a lot of similarity because this card is about, the World card is all about, you know, the end of the line. It's like you have whatever you were, your journey is finished. What you were seeking to do, you have accomplished. What you were seeking, you have gone through the main arcana, the path, the journey that the Fool takes through the major arcana has now come to an end. You have accomplished what you set out to do. You've accomplished that, and now it's time for a new journey to begin. Okay, we look here at the 6 of Pentacles, and the 6 of Pentacles is kind of an interesting card because the 6 of Pentacles It's all about you know, giving back to what, you know, giving to those less fortunate. You have accomplished what you have accomplished, what you have acquired, now sharing with people that need it. So it's that beginning again, taking what you have, your gifts, and passing them on. Okay. Taking what you have learned and going forward from there. Kind of interesting. In between, what is it? The Strength card. So it's almost like trying to keep these things in balance. Trying to keep these things in balance in a way. Again, okay. So we like to look at this. Oh, also now here we have interesting down here. I'm going to go down on the bottom, and we see a victorious card here. This was a victorious card above it, the world, but this is a victorious card as well. This is us, you know, you're accomplishing, you're being, you have achieved success, and people know about your successes. We can see your successes, okay? We can see what you've accomplished, okay? And so this is like, the past was, if you're positive, your past has rewarded you. You've gotten rewards from what you've done in the past. And this card, the Six of Cups, is all about looking back at the past. So going back and looking again at maybe where you have got. How did you get from where you are? This is where you are today. This is how did I get there? Okay. We might be very nostalgic about this kind of a beginning and beginning again. We may have nostalgia. We might see nostalgia playing a part moving forward. Who knows? And in between here, we have the Page of Swords, which a Page of Swords, it's all about perspective. It's all about having perspective. So if we can see here the Six of Wands as a victory, and here we want to keep a perspective, looking into the perspective, and here of nostalgia. That's kind of interesting. Okay. Now we haven't really done it, but you know, especially those of us in this culture, in our society, where we read traditionally from left to right, there's a tendency for us to naturally want to go from past, present, future. We can be reading rows as past, present, future, or columns as past, present, future, or just, you know, we're not stuck, but we're not stuck. If we were in a different kind of a reading, like a conventional, like a Celtic Cross or something, there's a definite position for past, and we read that past card only in the reference to past. The beauty about this reading is this can be past, but it can also just be very much present. We can read it very much present. We can read a continuation going down the line this way. Okay, all these things are possible. So we can read past, present, future. Or we can say, looking back, here I am today, and I'm just looking backwards. I'm looking forward. What is behind it, rather than just being in the path, is what is behind it. What is this obsession? What's behind the obsession card is this desire for, you know, some maybe a relationship or desire for something like that, beginning something. Or the beginnings are an immature, almost maybe an immature feeling, maybe an immature idea of what it is to have a relationship with people, okay? And here, we're alone because of this. So what could lie underneath it? What could hide behind it? We could look at things like that, okay? We can also read, rather than linear or down columns, we can read quarters. We can read what the corners. What are in the corners? What are in the corners? We have here cups and swords and wands and cups. Cups and cups. Ah, interesting. We began with cups, we end with cups. And here he's looking into himself, into his intuition, into study, into his heart, into his thoughts. Here we're looking backwards. Here we're looking backwards. Kind of interesting. It's kind of interesting. Trying to get a perspective by looking backwards. So that's kind of interesting. I like to look at the anchors. I like to look at the corners or beginning or ending, but I also like to just basically look at where we're looking. I have a lot of people in my cards. These are not all people in my cards right here in this deck. I see, where do they look? Look at this. The Page of Cups is looking back. The Queen of Swords is looking forward, or looking in opposite directions if we don't want to go past and forward. Looking in opposite directions. The Page of Cups almost looking down into the fish, looking down into himself, looking down into his thoughts, down into his feelings. She's looking into her. He's looking into his feelings. She's looking into her thoughts. She's looking at that blade. She's looking at the ideas that I had. What I thought I knew. Okay. He's looking at how I feel, right? They're looking in opposite directions. Here again, we have in the second row, where the Strength card is looking inwardly, we have the World card looking back at what has just been accomplished, and we have the Six of Pentacles looking down or out, beyond themselves. This is where I was. This is beyond where I am, beyond to other people. Okay. Here we have the Six of Wands looking outward, looking towards, she's looking towards me actually. And the Six of Cups looking beyond, looking at something that's not real. First of all, they're looking at some kind of a show here, a puppet show. Okay. They're looking at something, the reception was maybe not what they thought it was. Maybe it's not so clear. They're not so clear. Oh, look at that. It was only a movie. What's that movie where it's only a movie? He finds out his life is only a movie. It was just a puppet show. It was just a play. It was just games. It was childhood fantasy. Here, what is her perspective? What is her perspective? All of these questions are something that just, you see, we keep coming up. The longer I look, the more information I'm given, the more questions are being answered without me asking any questions. I don't have any questions. I'm just curiously looking to see. I'm trying to pay attention to the card. I'm trying to pay attention to what the cards are telling me. Okay, you will find when you do these kind of readings, you want to do them with, it doesn't have to be a shadow deck. It doesn't have to be the Deviant Moon deck. But I suggest you use one of your decks that is more graphic, that gives more room for the imagination the longer you look at it. Some simplistic decks are really not the best way. A pip deck is really not the best deck to use for this, because pip decks have more meanings subscribed to neurology, and not enough is left to the imagination and my thought and my feeling. I just find that a little bit limiting sometimes, because I want you to start noticing things in the picture that you hadn't noticed before, or that may mean something. Like right now, I'm looking down here, and here I see the head of the fish up here. I see the tail of a fish sticking up out of the water behind him, which I don't know. I might have thought I want to do maybe some thought about that another time, what that could mean.